Hello everyone and welcome to your virtual pet video. In this video I'm going to be reviewing the Tamagotchi Mothra, or the Mothra Tamagotchi, or however you want to say it, Mothra and a Tamagotchi, whatever. The Mothra collaboration of the Tamagotchi, which is basically the first collaboration Tamagotchi that was released. There were a couple of vintage collaborations, and then of course more recently there's been the Tamagotchi Nano collaborations, but the Mothra Tamagotchi was actually the first collaboration with a different franchise, and I guess you could also include Digimon as a semi-collaboration because it was the same creators and they often had crossing over sprites, especially in the case of the Mothra Tamagotchi, where one of the secret characters is Godzilla, and it's got the same sprite as the Metal Tyrannomon on the version 5. And the Flymon on the version 5 is also very similar to the Mothra Leo that you can get on the Mothra no Tamagotchi. So it's a pretty nice little Tamagotchi. Obviously it's the same size as the other vintage Tamagotchis, and came in different shells. I think there were only 3 shells. There's blue and white like this, or there's green and white where the blue on this is actually green, and then there's one where instead of white it's like a dark blue, so it's a blue and green sort of colour. But yeah, so it's a pretty neat virtual pet. I do like it. So the main mechanics, instead of the care mistakes as with your normal Tamagotchis, it actually uses the discipline meter a lot more than a lot of the vintage Tamas. So you can check on, it's called the justice meter, so here's your justice meter. And depending on how high your justice meter is determines what type of Mothra you'll get, or what type of kaiju rather, because you get the evil Mothra, which is Batora, if you have a low justice meter. And if you get the highest justice meter, you'll get Mothra Leo, which is the main Mothra, and if you get a little bit lower, you get the fairy Mothra, which is this one. Mothra Leo is a little bit more colourful, as in has like more wings and it's got a bit of shading there. Fairy Mothra is just sort of like a more basic version. So it depends on that justice meter instead of the care mistakes that you would usually expect, or being neglected or not being neglected. It primarily uses the justice meter. So when you need to discipline it is when you'll hear the call alarm. And instead of how you would usually discipline a Tamagotchi is that they're calling out to you when they don't need anything, when you look at the Tamagotchi after it's called out to you, it'll actually be attacking Tokyo Tower. And of course, if you want to discipline your Tamagotchi, you go to the discipline button here, and you basically tell Mothra off for attacking Tokyo Tower, because that's a naughty thing to do. And when you do that, the justice meter will increase a little bit. And that's a fairly cool mechanic. It's nice to not have something that's based on the on care mistakes as much. However, that doesn't make it necessarily that easy. You still need to obviously be near it and have the volume on. If you have the volume off, you obviously won't be able to tell when it's attacking Tokyo Tower, and you'll miss out on increasing that justice meter, and you'll probably get either Batora, or if you just sort of catch like half of them, you'll get an original character, which is sort of like a grub with legs. I think it's called Matora or Makora or something. It's kind of weird looking. It looks like a peanut with legs. But anyway, and that's what I think I got the first time I ran this because I wasn't working from home at the time. I had to have this on mute, so I could only catch it a couple of times. Enough that the justice meter wasn't 0, which means I didn't get the evil Mothra, Batora, but it was not good enough to get Fairy or Mothra Leo, so it was the peanut with legs. Another thing that's fairly neat about this is that once it's done being a grub, it'll become a cocoon, and the cocoon will actually hang from Tokyo Tower. And again, it's the use of Tokyo Tower just makes it a little bit more special. It makes it feel more than just a normal Tamagotchi with Mothra characters. It feels like it's got a little bit of personality, and that's what's really fun about the Mothra Tamagotchi, is it's got a lot of character to it, and so it should. It's a collaboration. and it was released when the Rebirth of Mothra 2 movie came out. So I haven't seen that movie. I probably should. This makes me want to watch a lot of Godzilla movies and a lot of Mothra movies, and there's just so many. They started a long time ago, and then, yeah, they're still going. So that's a thing. But yeah, in terms of characters, there's not actually that many, and the lack of characters actually is what takes this down from what would be a 10 out of 10 for enjoyment down to actually an 8 out of 10. And that's because there's not that many characters. There's Mothra, there's Fairy, there's Batora, there's the peanut with legs, and then there's a couple of secret characters. But it's not as many as other virtual pets. It's sort of got a couple, and there's even one which is two girls that you'll actually see when the egg hatches. There are two girls dancing, and when Mothra's sick, you can heal her, and when you're healing her, there'll be two girls hanging out. Those girls apparently also are a secret character, except no one's really worked out how to get those characters. I think they're called Mole and Laura or something along those lines. But anyway, they could just be dead code and are in the growth chart for some reason. But it just makes it feel like there's a lot less characters than other virtual pets, and that makes it seem less replayable, if that makes sense. Like, if I want to start this up again, I'm going to have to either try to get all the possible discipline times when she's attacking Tokyo Tower to try to get Fairy Mothra. Well, not Fairy Mothra, Mothra Leo, and not get Fairy Mothra again. Or I'll just ignore her and get Batora. But those are basically my options. There's not that many. There's one baby form. There's two toddler forms. There's Mothra Grub, and then there's Batora Grub. And then they evolve to, like, 4 different adults, and then there's a couple of secret characters there. So that's just, this feels like a little bit less than other Tamagotchis, and that makes me not want to really replay it as much. Having said that, it is really fun, and as I said, it's still an 8 out of 10 for enjoyment. In terms of ease of use, it's fairly easy if you have it unmuted, so I'm going to have to give it a 7 out of 10. It's fairly easy. As I said, it's mainly discipline, just catch all those discipline times where she's attacking Tokyo Tower, and yeah, you've got it. So it's not that hard. The game is a chance-based game where you have to find where the Mothra head is, and a lot of the vintage Tamas have chance-based games, and this one's fine in terms of the way it goes. You need to get the majority. It's just a lot like the version 1 and version 6 Digimon game, where it's completely chance, but it feels a lot, I feel like I win more than the other chance-based games. So I'm not sure if there's more than one possible thing that they're in, or if it's a pattern, I don't know, but it just seems a bit easier. I seem to always pass these, which results in a happy Mothra, and that's what we're here for. Another interesting fact before I finish off is this is actually one of the first Tamagotchis that did the walk from side to side of the screen and then roar or attack, and obviously this was again used in the Digital Monster. And a couple of other Tamagotchis. I don't own the Genjinchi, which is the caveman one, but apparently it does that in that one too. But yeah, so it's fairly interesting that it does that animation, same as the Digimon one. And it is a lot like a Digimon. I keep on wanting to say, have I got the battles in, but you don't need to battle with it, which is obviously makes it a lot easier than the ones where you have to connect to evolve to certain levels. I prefer actually sometimes how the vintage ones, you don't have to actually connect. Everything that you need to do is in the actual device itself. But yeah, so I'm a big fan of it. As I said, 8 out of 10 for enjoyment and 7 out of 10 for ease of use. It's just a really fun little Tamagotchi, and I would definitely recommend picking it up, especially if you're a fan of Digimon. It very much feels like a Digimon that doesn't focus on battles, but more like caring for your Digimon. And of course that would make sense because it is a monster, not really like a little fun character. But yeah, so that's it for the review. I definitely recommend it. It's probably one of my favourites, especially from the vintage ones. It's not as hard as other vintage virtual pets, like the Ocean, for example, which is a little bit harder. It doesn't die that easily, and it's just kind of nice. It's a nice sort of collaboration, so I would definitely recommend anyone picking that up. So just again, 8 out of 10 for enjoyment and 7 out of 10 for ease of use. It's a pretty decent virtual pet. I don't really have that many complaints, except for obviously, oh, it did a poo. Obviously the fact doesn't feel like there's that many characters, so it's not really as replayable as other virtual pets, but it's still really nice. The sprites are nice. It is nice. And yeah, so that's basically all my thoughts on the Mothra Tamagotchi. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!